Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you all to Americans for the Arts' 32nd annual Nancy Hanks Lecture on Arts and Public Policy. I'm Bob Lynch, President and CEO of Americans for the Arts, and I want to thank you for joining us here tonight. Was that my mother who started that? For joining us here tonight at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. We are joined on this auspicious occasion by several members of Congress, including Representatives Suzanne Bonamici, David Cicilline, Betty McCollum, Shelley Pingree, and Carol Miller, as well as the heads of the National Endowment for the Arts, Mary Ann Carter, and the head of the National Endowment for the Humanities, John Peedy. Thank you for all being here. Several members of the Americans for the Arts Artists Committee are also with us tonight, including opera singer Carla Durlakoff-Canales, musician Ben Folds, Tony Award-winning Broadway star Brian Stokes Mitchell, who will also be performing on stage this evening. We are so pleased that they're all here with us tonight, but also all year round to help advance our mission to educate and promote the value of the arts as core to our society and as the essence of our individual creative spirit. In order to achieve that vision, we realized that we needed to help the general public better understand the multiple ways that the arts touch every aspect of their lives. And as a result, last year, Americans for the Arts unveiled its, I think, engaging and very easy to use tool called the Arts and Social Impact Explorer. This award-winning interactive online tool on the americansforthearts.org website draws together over 1,000 data points on how the arts integrate into and impact community life by showing a full range of slivers of the community and how the arts support traditional non-arts sectors. For instance, you can read about how arts therapy programs are assisting veterans recovering from post-traumatic syndrome disorder, or how urban neighborhoods dedicated as arts districts are economically and visually revitalizing previously blighted downtown areas and infusing them with energy and jobs. The Arts and Social Impact Explorer tool includes detailed citations of the research data documenting the effectiveness of the arts programs, along with vivid stories of how local projects are making an impact in many different areas. Because the truth is that the arts offer opportunities for creative solutions, from better education to greater health outcomes to a more civically engaged citizenry. It's just that people don't always see the connection to the arts. Decision makers don't always see that connection, and they don't necessarily see that the arts made change happen. So what's the goal? The goal is to provide local, state, and federal decision makers and arts leaders with the information and research that they need on the spot, that moment, to make that impact visible and to encourage deeper investment in the arts through pro-arts policies and public and private funding. We want you to use it often and well, and in ways that surprise and open up opportunities to advance the arts in your community or your state or in this nation. I am very honored to share that Americans for the Arts was recognized nationally with the 2019 Public Affairs Council Innovation Award because of the innovation, advocacy, and policy work that we are doing with the Arts and Social Impact Explorer. Next. That's for the hardworking staff that did it and the hardworking board that enabled it, so thank you for that. In addition to collecting and documenting great research data and compelling art stories, we also regularly gauge the pulse of what Americans think about the arts through public opinion polls. It not only gives us insight, but it also measures whether we're moving the needle in the right direction to advance the arts across America. In 2018, Americans for the Arts interviewed 3,000 people and released one of the largest national public opinion surveys of American perceptions and attitudes towards the arts and art funding, entitled Americans Speak Out About the Arts. And so what did we learn? We learned that the great majority of Americans continue to be highly engaged in the arts, the great majority, believe more strongly than ever that the arts promote personal well-being, and agree that the arts help us understand other cultures. We know that they are essential to a well-rounded education because a huge number, 90% of the public, believes that. And they further believe that government has an important role in funding the arts. As many of you know, tomorrow is Arts Advocacy Day, and Americans for the Arts will be highlighting the top-line findings of this national survey. And this will be done in ads that are being placed in key newspapers here in Washington that decision makers will take a look at. And our message is simple: the arts transform communities. And more specifically, 86% of Americans believe that the arts are good for the economy and support jobs. 94% of Americans believe that the arts should be taught in K through 12 education. Yes, the educators. And 72% of Americans across the country, across sectors, believe that the arts unify us regardless of race, age, or ethnicity. So here's the bottom line. We are quite simply better people with the arts in our lives. We are healthier, we're more creative, and we're more actively engaged citizens who feel better about today and more optimistic about tomorrow. In a society struggling to find equity and social justice, Americans understand that even in challenging times, the arts make our communities healthier and stronger and more unified. And with that spirit of unity, Americans for the Arts has worked to promote more equitable access to a full creative life for all people since its inception some almost 60 years ago in 1960. While the type of work may have varied over time, our commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion has not. Our commitment was shaped by the strong guidance of early board members Judy Baca and Harry Belafonte and Ralph Ellison and Billy Taylor, who was on our board and who was a previous Hanks lecturer. Ellison, who in 1968 was the first artist to join our board, famously said, "America is woven of many strands. I would recognize them and let it so remain. Our fate is to become one and yet many." That strong board guidance has continued through the years. In 2016, the Americans for the Arts Board of Directors pushed further and unanimously adopted a more specific, strategic, and long-time commitment to cultural equity. We are committed to championing policies and practices of cultural equity that empower a just, inclusive, equitable nation through the arts. We are also actively encouraging our local and state member organizations across America to adopt similar cultural equity policies in both their programming and their grant-making within their communities. And that work is going on very, very well as I see it across the country. But we also know that it's important to showcase great leaders of cultural equity to advance the arts. And that is just one reason why we are so thrilled to be presenting the incomparable Rita Moreno tonight. Yes. We've had the honor of working with her a bit in the past and honoring her once before, along with the United States Conference of Mayors. An absolute trailblazer for women, Hispanic heritage, and the arts. And you know what? Groundbreaking policies don't happen without risk-taking leaders behind them, like Rita Moreno. At Americans for the Arts, we seek out those leaders and we support them, and perhaps more importantly, we make sure that their own constituents, or using today's lexicon, their followers, understand the importance of what they do as well. For instance, last week we wanted to showcase another great arts leader, Congresswoman Shelley Pingree of Maine, who is here with us tonight. Congresswoman Pingree last year graciously agreed to fill the very big shoes left behind by the sudden passing of the legendary Congresswoman Louise Slaughter. Louise was a powerhouse who founded and led the Congressional Arts Caucus on Capitol Hill for over 20 years. So we got together last week with local and state arts leaders in Maine, like Julie Richard, head of the State Arts Council in Maine, to host a meeting about the arts with Congresswoman Pingree. And to commemorate the moment, we took out a full-page color ad in the A section in the Sunday edition of Maine's largest newspaper to showcase and thank her for stepping into this new role as the head of the Congressional Arts Caucus. A round of applause for Shelley Pingree, please. I mentioned earlier that tomorrow is Arts Advocacy Day. Advocacy efforts take collaboration, and I'd like to recognize our 85 national partners, our 50 state captains, our 500 grassroots registrants who have flown in from every corner of the country. You can't read all the names up there, but you can see the back page of our Arts Advocacy Day handbook filled with their names. And also our board of directors who have worked hard with us right now. And I'd like to ask all of these amazing Arts Advocacy Day participants in the audience to please now stand and be recognized. Thank you and good luck tomorrow. And now, before we begin tonight's lecture program, please join me in thanking the sponsors who helped make this evening possible. First, longtime supporter and Americans for the Arts board member Nancy Stevens, who chairs the Rosenthal Family Foundation and chairs our Americans for the Arts Action Fund. Along with Ovation, the nation's only television arts network, and finally, two local sponsors, the Max and Victoria Dreyfus Family Foundation, as well as Newmark, Height, and Frank. Thank you to them. And thank you to all of you for being here tonight. So now, to begin tonight's program, we kick things off with an artistic performance by Tony Award-winning actor and singer and Americans for the Arts board member, Brian Stokes Mitchell. Yeah. Stokes, as he prefers to be called, has been dubbed the last leading man by New York Times. He enjoys a rich and varied career on Broadway, in television, and film, along with appearances in America's greatest concert halls. His musical versatility has kept him in demand by some of the country's finest conductors and orchestras. In 2005, he debuted Pulitzer Prize-winning composer David Del Tredici's Rip Van Winkle with the National Symphony Orchestra under the baton of Leonard Slatkin. He has been invited to the White House many times, including performances for Presidents Clinton and Obama. His Broadway career is rich and vast. He won a Tony and Drama Desk Award for Best Actor in a musical for his iconic performance in Kiss Me, Kate. He's also earned several Tony nominations for Man of La Mancha, Ragtime, and August Wilson's King Hedley II. In 2000, Stokes returned to Broadway after a 7-year absence to do concerts, film, and television. The show was Lincoln Center Theater's production of Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, which also starred Patti LuPone. In 1998, he joined the likes of Helen Hayes, Sir John Gielgud, Alec Guinness, and James Earl Jones when he became the sole recipient of that year's Distinguished Performance Award from the Drama League, the nation's oldest theatrical honor, for his performance in Ragtime. Numerous film and television appearances include his roles on Glee, One Last Thing, recurring roles of Crossing Jordan and Frasier, PBS Great Performances, DreamWorks, The Prince of Egypt, and his presidential debut in The Singer in the Rain at the White House. In May of 2011, he appeared in the film Jumping the Broom, playing opposite Angela Bassett for the second time. He continues to perform in concerts all over the United States when he's not busy visiting Capitol Hill for us. Stokes works closely with multiple charitable organizations, from the March of Dimes to the USO. In addition to that, and to serving on the Americans for the Arts Board of Directors, Stokes is currently serving his 14th term as chairman of the board of a great organization, the Actors Fund, for which And he received the 2016 Isabel Stevenson Award at the Tony Awards ceremony in honor of his service to the arts. So this evening, Stokes will perform 3 songs, and he'll be accompanied by the wonderfully talented Ted Firth on the piano. Brian Stokes Mitchell.
Bird flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean. Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when day is done, that's what I mean. And this old world is a new world, and a bold world for me. I'm feeling good. Stars when you shine, you know how I feel. Scent of the pine, you know how I feel. Freedom is mine, I know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. Feeling good, feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean. Butterflies are having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when day is done. That's what I mean. And this old world is a new world, and a bold world for me. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Feeling good. Thank you so much. Good evening. I'm feeling good tonight, definitely. I hope you're feeling good too. I feel good to be down here at this time with fellow arts makers and creators and supporters, and I'm glad we're all here together in the same time and in the same space, trying to do something, put some good food into the world, help out the arts a little bit. So thank you all so much for being here and being a part of this. It's yeah. Thank you. I've been doing this for a very long time now, and the one thing that I think keeps coming back to me is what a collaborative endeavor the arts all are. It's really obvious when you see a movie or a TV show or a Broadway show, there's hundreds and hundreds of other artists and non-artists as well that are collaborating to make that art happen. But it even happens on a smaller scale. Even the painter is collaborating with the canvas maker and the paint maker and the arts dealer, and the arts involves so many different people, seen and unseen. I'm just very happy that I am being seen here, as I'd like to reintroduce my pianist collaborator for a long time and great friend, Mr. Ted Firth on piano, great artist. And for a singer, the unseen collaborators are many. We have lighting people, sound people, all the crew that make this happen as well, and are a part of this wonderful space here. But also the songwriters, of course. That last song was written by Anthony Newley and Leslie Brickus. The next song I'm going to do, my unseen collaborator, my songwriter, is a gentleman by the name of Mr. Stephen Sondheim. And yeah. Few of you might know that name. And the song I'm going to sing, though, is a song that probably very few of you know. It's a song that actually he wrote about 35 years ago, and it was cut from a show that he was working on then. But one of the reasons I wanted to do this song tonight, I just kind of discovered it myself only about a year ago, is because it's a patriotic song, but it's a patriotic song coming from the mind of Steve Sondheim. So that's going to be interesting. But also, I think if Steve Sondheim were asked today to write a patriotic song for today, for what's going on not only in the world, but particularly in our country, I think this is exactly the song that he would write. And it tells us also and reconnects us and reminds me how the arts can reconnect us to our beliefs, our passion, and something that we may have lost touch with. You can gripe all you like, you can sneer, where are the heroes? You can shout about how everything's a lie. Then that flag goes by. You can snipe at the greed, at the need to be a winner, at the hype you keep hearing from on high. And you think, why try, and you wanna cry. Then that flag goes by, and you think that's why. That's the best idea. That's a really good idea. What you wanna do is brag. I'm part of that. Yeah, I know it's just a flag, okay, but still, for a minute you say, hey, we could, we will fix everything tomorrow. For a minute you're aware you're feeling proud, and then suddenly you're staring at the crowd, and you're thinking there's no link I can see. They're as different from me as they possibly could be. Then you see the idea. And you know it's a dream, and you know it isn't perfect, and at times it may seem to go awry. Then that flag goes by, and no matter how you sigh, it's the bright blue sky. It's just my apple pie. There's there's this thing you can't deny, this idea that it's fixable tomorrow. There's a chance, there's a choice, we can change ourselves tomorrow. We're in charge, we've a voice, an idea about tomorrow to remember when the flag has gone by. Steve Sondheim, what an incredible artist, right? I mean, that could have been written yesterday. Doesn't it make it feel good? It's about feeling good today. That's what we're here for, so we can pass some of that on tomorrow, especially. I was having a hard time deciding what to sing as the third song and final song for this, and I kind of kept going back and forth, and then Ms. Rita Moreno happened to walk on stage. I said, hey, what would you like to hear? And I said, I'm going to sing this or this or this or this. And she said, oh, sing that one. So I'm going to sing this one. And it's actually two songs. One is from a show I did called Ragtime. Another one is a song that, thank you. The other one is a song that everybody knows, and I've liked to combine these two songs together because they are essentially both songs of hope. It's the song that Coalhouse Walker sings when he holds his child in his arms for the very, very first time. And instead of being filled with fear and trepidation, he's filled with hope. He's filled with this vision for what the future could be. And at that time, his future didn't look too good, actually, back then, when it took place in the early part of the last century. So it's what I love about art, too. Art has this magical quality to make us hope, to put us in touch with something kind of special. Like I said about Flag Song, it puts us in touch with something that we might have felt that we have lost. So I'm going to leave you with these two favorite songs of hope of mine. And take it out with you when you leave this place as well, wherever you go. Take it to your families, your neighborhood, your work, and spread that joy or spread that feeling, spread that hope if you feel it as well. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood. From sea to shining sea, oh, beautiful for patriot dream that see beyond the years. Thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed her grace on thee and crown thy good with sisterhood. From sea to shining sea. I see his face. I hear his heartbeat. I look in those eyes, how wise they seem. Well, when he is old enough, I will show him America, and he will ride on the wheels of a dream. We'll go down south and see your people. Won't they take to him like cats to cream? Then we'll travel on from there, California, oh, who knows where, and we will ride on the wheels of a dream. Yes, the wheels are turning for us, girl, and the times are starting to roll. Any man can get where he wants to if he's got some fire in his soul. We'll see justice coming and plenty of men who will stand up and give us our due. I swear that it's more than promises. Swear that it must be true. A country that lets a man like me own a car, raise a child, build a life with you, with you. Beyond that road, beyond this lifetime, that car full of hope will always gleam with the promise of happiness and the freedom he'll live to know. He'll travel with head held high, just as far as his heart can go, and he will ride. Our son will ride on the wheels of a dream. Mr. Ted Firth. God bless. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay, wow. He's our board member. Thank you, Stokes, and thank you, Ted, for that spectacular performance and gift to all of us here. And now, I am extremely honored to welcome a friend of Rita's, who also just happens to be an Associate Justice on the United States Supreme Court. Justice Sonya Sotomayor was born, yes, even the name, there you go. She was born in the Bronx, to Puerto Rican parents, appointed by President Barack Obama in 2009, Justice Sotomayor has the distinction of being the first Hispanic Supreme Court Associate Justice. In 1976, Justice Sotomayor earned a BA from Princeton University, where she graduated summa cum laude and received the university's highest academic honor. In 1979, she earned her Juris Doctorate from Yale Law School, where she served as an editor of the Yale Law Review, the Yale Law Journal. And in 1991, President George H.W. Bush nominated her to the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York, which she served on for 6 years. New York, yeah. In addition to her stellar legal career, Justice Sotomayor is an author of 2 books, Turning Pages, My Life Story, and My Beloved World. She not only appreciates the literary arts, but she can be regularly spotted at performing arts events and museums. She even has a magnet school in Los Angeles named after her as the Sonya Sotomayor Center for Arts and Sciences. To introduce her friend, Rita Moreno, please join me in now welcoming friend of the arts, great friend to America, Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor.
Espero que hay más de una aquí. Thank you, Bob, for your kind welcome. And thank you to Americans for the Arts for hosting this wonderful event. I will be dreaming about those songs tonight. Stokes and Ted, that was just an extraordinary performance. But we're here for a very special reason. It's to honor and learn from a dear friend and role model of mine, Rita Moreno. Rita's achievements as an actress and a performer are numerous, and they are dazzling. Over the course of her vibrant career, she has captivated audiences in countless films, plays, and TV shows. She danced with Gene Kelly in Singing in the Rain. She shared a steamy screen kiss with Marlon Brando. It was a real kiss. She cavorted with Miss Piggy on The Muppet Show. She made audiences laugh in The Ritz and helped children learn on The Electric Company. And she brought home an Oscar, the first ever awarded to a Latina actress. For her iconic portrayal of Anita in West Side Story. I was 7 when I saw that film, and I remember still how brilliant she was. By the way, she did not stop with that Oscar. She went on to win a Tony, a Grammy, and 2 Emmys. That makes her one of only 15 quadruple threat stars ever to win that coveted combination, which I am told is known as EGOTing. When she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2004 and a Kennedy Center honor in 2015, she joined an even more exclusive club. Only 2 people have ever achieved all 6. I will let you guess the other, but Bob Lynch mentioned one of the other's name. How is all that for a career? At 87, she shows no signs of quitting, with a hit show on Netflix, One Day at a Time, and a movie in the works. I have my share of life-tenured colleagues, but even I am amazed by Rita's tireless devotion to her craft. As we recognize tonight, however, Rita is much, much, much more than a star. She is also a guiding light. For more than half a century now, Rita has broken barriers, advocated for equality, and supported causes and communities dear to her heart. She has always had the imagination to see possibilities others did not, and the grit and determination to make dreams reality. As a child, she found her talents acting on Broadway and dancing under the instructor who taught Rita Hayworth, whose name she adopted when show business beckoned. Back when the big studios called all the shots and there were no Latina role models in Hollywood, she dared to imagine herself as a Puerto Riqueña version of her icon, Elizabeth Taylor. With talent and tenacity, she got her foot in the door. Now, Hollywood in the 1950s was a tough place to be a trailblazer. At first, the roles available to Rita were mostly one-dimensional stereotypes, sexy Latina spitfires, she was very good at that, and generic ethnic damsels. Complex characters and leading roles were reserved for others. But she soon found ways out of those boxes and into the conversation, and she cultivated courage along the way. When asked to cut her curly black hair for Singing in the Rain, she had the chutzpah to respond, "I don't cut my hair, Mr. Kelly." Acting alongside Marlon Brando hastened her professional and personal growth. And Brando's bravado for underdogs inspired Rita, no stranger to discrimination, to use her celebrity to raise awareness for civil rights and political causes. She advocated for Native Americans. She was one of a contingent of stars who lent their statue to the March on Washington, and she sat just a few feet from Martin Luther King Jr. as he gave his "I Have a Dream" speech. West Side Story was a professional turning point. Even though the film was all about the lives of New York Puerto Ricans, the leading roles of Tony and Maria were played by non-Latinos. But Rita stole the show. She threw herself into the role of Anita, and according to Rita, the first Hispanic character she was able to play with dignity and a sense of self-respect. Her performance and the Oscar that it earned her were game changers. But this being the 1960s, the professional opportunities that followed her triumph often remained disappointingly familiar. She didn't get any offers in the United States. She had to go abroad to perform. She was regularly typecast in Hollywood into one-dimensional roles in movies about Hispanic gangs and urban prostitutes. Rather than cash in the easy way, she sacrificed, insisting on dignified and challenging roles. She also became a voice for change in the industry, decrying what she labeled Hollywood Jim Crowism. Rita's film career undoubtedly took a small hit for her principles, but she set a valuable example for the next generation. Latina actresses no longer have to reimagine in being Elizabeth Taylor to picture themselves on the big screen. Jennifer Lopez has said that watching beautiful, strong Puerto Rican Rita Moreno made her feel that anything was possible. A principled pioneer showed that little girl that she had a place. She gave me the courage to imagine myself in impossible places. Rita never stopped branching out. She satirized that tired old Spitfire stereotype on her own terms as Googie Gomez in The Ritz. She became an educator and spokeswoman. She wrote a poignant and insightful autobiography, entered the streaming world with her current Netflix show, and I can't help but add with pride, a few years ago she narrated the autotape of my own memoir. Through that process, I have made a dear friend. It's hard not to love Rita once you know her and her great generosity of spirit. Rita also has never stopped giving back. Her work with charitable and civic causes over the decades is too extensive to list, but let me briefly mention just a few near to my heart. She has raised awareness about type 2 diabetes, which is unfortunately all too prevalent in the Hispanic community. She has done extensive public service, including working with the National Endowment for the Arts, and she has inspired and educated both young children and young adults, particularly minority students pursuing higher education. And do you remember I mentioned that she has an upcoming movie? It's a remake of West Side Story. This time with Latino actors in the lead role. That is one small indication of the strides Rita helped us make towards a more inclusive world by working and advocating tirelessly throughout her career to make that new world a reality. Now, I want to thank her, and I think all of you should join me. I'm a horrible singer, but I'm going to try my hand at something from her Netflix show. Dale, Rita, dale. Dale, Rita, dale. Dale, Rita, dale. Dale, Rita, como tú has hecho toda tu vida. Come on out, Rita.
Wait a minute. Well, wait a minute. I just have to say, I need to say my thank you, Señora Justicia. And you said something that really shocked and alarmed me, about you and me. Were you really? Were you really 7 when you said that?
Yes.
That's interesting. But I need to say one more thing. Because,
But you were a baby when you played that role.
Well, if you call 27 a baby. And then I just want to say one more thing, other than just thank you. But I am so thrilled that I am able to stand in front of a justice without feeling guilty about anything. You knew what I was going to ask her, didn't you? Wow, I'm sure you thought of that to the uh-oh. Okay. They say that there's nothing more American than baseball, hot dogs, and apple pie. Yet, when you think of it, Germans gave us Frankfurters. Egyptians created pie. Apple trees were imported from Central Asia by way of Europe. And baseball, even our national pastime, is the conflation of two English games, rounders and cricket. So what I'm really saying is that in every way, we are the melting pot. A fusion of the nationalities, cultures, and ethnicities that make up this extraordinary stew that we call America. My mommy, Rosa Maria, heard that America was a place that you could dream, and your dreams could actually come true. Which is why she packed up a 5-year-old me, Rosita Dolores Alberio, along with 4 shopping bags, poor people's matched luggage, and boarded a boat for America. The ship, the SS Carabobo, translated cara, bobo, stupid face. I'm not kidding. A ship with a name like that is not a good omen. Of course, our best laid plans usually end up on the floor of God's very large editing room. And almost as soon as we departed Puerto Rico, we hit a van. Oh, I knew there was one of you out there. We have one Boricua there. Anyway, literally as soon as we left Puerto Rico, you know, there's always things that happen in God's editing room. And almost as soon as we departed, we hit a violent storm that threw everyone into a state of collective panic. Now, Latino people have many natural talents, but one area in which we particularly excel, it's panicking. When it comes to panicking, we are the envy of the world. It's part of our worldview. We are profoundly passionate people, pathologically passionate, everything in excess, nothing in moderation. Where other cultures believe in restraint and self-control, we believe in the principle of constant combustibility. When in doubt, flip out. And so we spent that storm-tossed passage to New York clinging to each other and our 4 shopping bags. And it wasn't until the morning of the 6th day that our voyage ended in the safety of New York Harbor. And suddenly, I look up, and I see this enormous green lady shooting straight up from the middle of the ocean to the very top of the sky, wearing some kind of crown on her head and holding out a huge flaming ice cream cone. Mami, ¿quién es esa señora tan grande? And my mommy tells me that that lady is a very special lady, that she is inviting everyone from around the world to come to America. To come and live here, to come and be citizens of los Estados Unidos, especialmente people who are pobres, cansados, hambrientos, sin hogar, poor, tired, hungry, and homeless. We are definitely overqualified. But when I look up at that big green lady's face, all I can think is, oh my goodness. A lady runs this country. And she probably will. So, there you have it. 2 more immigrants fleeing the poverty of a beloved homeland, no longer able to sustain them. Welcomed to America by a Frenchman's work of art, given voice by the poetry of a Sephardic Jewess. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, mother of exiles. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Every day of my childhood, Rosa Maria walked me to school, then climbed the bus that carried her from 181st Street and Wadsworth Avenue to 42nd Street and 5th Avenue, the heart of the Garment District, where every day she pumped the treadle, wound the bobbins, and chalked the hems. That was my mommy, the sweatshop seamstress. It was backbreaking work. She knew the prick of every pin. It was a job. It paid the rent. We just got by. She made my clothes. She made my costumes. I was her little cookie. She put ribbons in my hair. This was art. This was her art. So that I could perform at every bar mitzvah or wedding reception that would book an 8-year-old artiste. She even made me a headdress with bogus fruit stitched on top that made me look like a little miniature Carmen Miranda. My mommy, the sweatshop seamstress. No, my mommy, the artist. It gave her joy. It gave her joy. It made her proud, my mommy. Costume designer to a star, the Rita Moreno before I ever was. My fame, it's her fame. You know, I'm reminded that it's just a short walk from right here, to a very special place. And it gives me goosebumps just to remembering it, thinking of it. That was a place where I stood on the steps of a monument, a temple, in the shadow of 2 great men on a blistering August afternoon. One seated, chiseled in stone by the hands of an immigrant father and his 6 Italian sons. The other standing, resolved but not hardened, humbled but not bowed, the furrows on his brow shaped by the labor pains of immense struggle, not by a sculptor's will. The first, the prophet, proclaimed that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. The second, a preacher, declares, we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we have come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. To a congregation of over 250,000 souls, I added my voice that day, hallelujah. That was 56 years ago. Now, both prophet and preacher are effigies in stone, but the truths they spoke still live. You know, sometimes in life we fight so hard to get where we are going, we don't look back to appreciate where we've been. We are so busy striving to arrive that we lose sight of the waypoints, the stops and starts along the path, the hills and the valleys we've navigated. To forget those places, to lose our history, denies us the blessing of fully living in our present. I think that it robs us of our best and highest future. Just don't linger there too long. Had it not been for a casting call that fundamentally changed how I felt about myself, I would never have been on those steps in 1963. Up until that time in my career, the studios had cast me to play every kind of ethnic role. Polynesian girl, Indian princess, Arabian girl, or any dark-skinned girl they needed. I hated those parts. I now refer to them as my dusky maiden roles. I had to deliver lines to my white lover like, why'd you no love Ula no more? And then my character, Ula, the Indian maiden, is so distraught when my lover summarily rejects me that I fling myself off a cliff. And you know, my long-term memory kicked in as I was recalling this story to tell you. And I remembered that at the end of that scene in the movie, the director cut to the waves lapping over Ula's lifeless body on the beach at the bottom of the cliff, which in reality, of course, was me. And in that water were thousands of tiny, stinging jellyfish. I'm wiggling with discomfort. The director barks, "Stop twitching, damn it, you're supposed to be dead." But sir, I'm getting stung by jellyfish. Shut up and do what I say. And there you have it. He sees me as Ula. What was in the mind of these studio executives and writers? The parts they were creating for young minority actresses told the story. These roles objectified us. They almost always portrayed us as ignorant, uneducated, totally passive, unable to read and write, and morally bankrupt, usually some white man's mistress. So, you may ask, how does an Indian princess speak? or an Arabian girl for that matter. So I think to myself, what can I do to make these terrible parts better? We were given no dialect coaches, and the directors never seemed to care. So I decided to solve the problem myself. I gave accents to these characters that I thought they should have. Well, a while back I found a couple of my old movie clips on YouTube and started laughing out loud. Because the accent I created all sounded the same. If she was Arabian, she sounded like this. If she was American Indian, she sounded like this. Hawaiian, like this. I had created a universal ethnic accent. Not my finest hour. But hey, you have to pay the bills. Unbelievable that at that point in my 22-year career, I had yet to encounter a single role model for a girl like me. They simply did not exist. To my absolute surprise, it was Anita in West Side Story who became my exemplar. She had precisely all the qualities I so longed to portray in films and desired to be a part of my life and character. She had a sense of dignity and of self-respect. That girl kicked ass. That girl took names. I had never, believe it or not, played a character, Hispanic or otherwise till then, who had any of those qualities ever. It was Anita who taught me that I could actually be a person of strength. I could choose what was best for me. I could chart the course of my career. Come to think of it, I was at the march that day because of an artistic encounter. I learned that I could engage my energies in things that matter. I understood I was part of a much bigger picture, and I decided to shoulder my part of the responsibility to help others, or at the very least, to raise awareness. And as Sonya told you, I'm 87 now, and in the third act of my life, but that hasn't changed me one bit. Tonight, in this sanctuary of the arts, we celebrate. Tomorrow, we charge the hill. That's right. That's it. And we say, open the vaults of opportunity for all people and cash some checks for the arts. Now, it's usually at this point when someone raises their hand and says, oh, come on, Rita. Why should the government do for people what people can do for themselves? Hey, listen, you did well enough on your own. You and your mommy made it just fine. After all, the arts have become the foie gras of the elite. You know, they're for coast dwellers. California, New York, Hollywood, Broadway. Yeah, right. Tell that to every parent all over this country that's worked a bake sale. Hello, held a car wash, sold a raffle ticket, or worked a silent auction, to travel a choir, stage a play, equip an orchestra, or uniform a band. They get it. The people get it, that the arts are a critical part of education, of personal development. educational, personal development, social development, and not just for their own little Johnny. The arts build a community with a capital C, and it rhymes with D, and that stands for dough. The arts need dollars, moolah, greenbacks, bread, smackers, lettuce, Benjamins. Organizations like Americans for the Arts are critical for shaking the trees, and all of us need to help advocates on the Hill like Congresswoman Bonamici and Stefanik of the Congressional Steam Caucus turn a trickle of funding into a river. It is public funding of the arts that first made programs addressing early childhood development possible on television. Think PBS. Mr. Rogers, I did that show as a guest once. The Electric Company. Do you know that when my show business colleagues found out I was offered the Electric Company, they were alarmed? Don't do it, Rita. You go on a children's television show and you'll never work as an adult again. It happened to a lot of actors. Education, teaching kids to read in an entertaining way, and on television, what a high calling. Sometimes your heart tells you to take a risk, mine did, and so I took it. And for the next 5 years, those were some of the most fulfilling and my happiest. Even my husband, listen to this, I love this. Even my husband's Tante Shirley learned how to read because of the Electric Company. She said to me one day, she called me, she said, Rita, darling, I'm reading from the can of peas. She called me from the supermarket. In that wonderful season of my career, I also had a whole new set of fans. I got to take a drink. One time, I was having dinner at Sardi's in New York City, and I had to go powder my nose. So there I am, sitting on the commode, with my knickers to my knees, when this tiny little gentleman wearing a three-piece suit and tie appears, looking up at me from the opening below the stall door. Hi. Well, hello. Hello there. Hey, you guys. That's right. That's certainly true. And at that point, thank goodness, his mother rushes in, apparently frantic, and she says, Jordy, there you are, come on. And as he's leaving, he says, I can wash my hands. Another time, he was so cute, three-piece suit, tiny little tiny man. Another time, I was going up the escalator at Bloomingdale's, and a little girl is staring at me while she's holding her mommy's hand all the way to the top. She's just staring at me. And when I step off, she's still staring, and she says, electric cup of tea. And I said, that's right, honey. And then she says, how did you get out? I was just charmed. And I tried the best way I could to explain in a way that perhaps a little girl could understand. I said, well, honey, you see, there is a big room with bright lights called a studio. And they have a camera, like when your mommy takes pictures of you, but only this is a big camera. And it takes pictures that move. And they take pictures of me. And then they send the pictures on a special telephone wire to a big antenna up on the hill that sends the pictures to your TV in your house, and you see the picture of me in the box. But how did you get out? Great art is powerful. It's transcendent. It lifts beyond the physical realm. It supersedes the moment. It does something special to your soul. Even today, as people pass that enormous green lady that welcomed my mommy and me all those years ago, they don't see oxidized copper in a museum. They see freedom. They see a beginning. They see a new life. Art broadens perspective, fosters appreciation for beauty, lifts us above ourselves, enables us to project beyond our circumstances, and gives us a common language to explore disparate ideas. Art fosters creativity, stretches our imagination, makes us laugh, elicits tears, excites, surprises, shocks, soothes, and sometimes makes us uncomfortable. Art confronts us with our humanity and introduces us to our better angels. In it, we experience harmony, discord, resolution, and sometimes it leaves us in the air, right in midair. Art can paint stories in the movement of a score, the dialogue of a play, the choice of a word, the selection of a color, the electricity of a dance. Art invites us out of our enclaves to talk across division, to tear down walls. It teaches us the discipline of listening. Art claims the dulcimer of Appalachia, the cello of Yo-Yo Ma. It's the poetry of Whitman and the rap of chance, the step ball change of jazz and the on point of ballet. It's the opera of the Met and the Grand Ole Opry, the movie of a Spielberg and the play of a Tony Kushner. It's a Louisiana gospel and a chancel choir uptown. The arts provide a smorgasbord of choices from high tea to a cup of joe. The Hallelujah chorus and we shall overcome. Art is nourishment for the soul. It's a mirror held up to show us who we are and who we can become. Temples and sanctuaries are places of spiritual transformation, but for me, transcendence happened near a cathedral. It didn't have massive stone columns, flying buttresses, or soaring spires. It sat on a side table in our apartment in the Heights. Our sofa was the pew that faced a table radio in the shape of a cathedral. Remember those? Yes, we watched a radio. We saw the Joe Louis fight. We saw it. Mommy and I would attend service, listening to shows like Dragnet, the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra, Edgar Bergen, Charlie McCarthy, and the Ave Maria Hour. Sometimes I would stretch that cord of the radio as far as I could and move that magical box up close to the window. I would open the window, use a can of Café Bustelo for a step up, and climb over the sill onto the fire escape. I loved that fire escape, especially the fire escape at night. I would take my blanket, spread it over the steel rungs like a magic carpet, and that was my place to dream. I'd listen to the artists of my day. Miguelito Valdez. Now that's a handful for you. I've got more. Tito Puente. Really? Celia Cruz. Xavier Cugat. These were my Shakira, my Ricky Martin, my Pitbull, my Gloria Estefan. But hey, I was already a convert, an American for the arts, because my favorite was a group called the Pied Pipers, a bunch of white guys and Joe Stafford. And when I lie down and close my eyes, I'm transported. I can go anywhere. I can be anybody. I want so badly to be somebody, somebody special. And suddenly, it's as though the sky is filled with every star in the universe. Dream when you're feeling blue. Dream, that's the thing to do. Dream while the smoke rings rise in the air. You'll find your share of memories there. So dream when the day is through. Dream and they might come true. Things never are as sad as they seem. So dream, dream, dream. Thank you.
Double wow. Wasn't that a magnificent program tonight? So moving, so poignant, and so funny. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you, Rita, for a truly inspiring and personal speech appropriately titled, A Temple, a Sanctuary, a Cathedral, Reviving America's Soul Through the Arts. And after that moving speech, our souls are stirred and exalted. And don't we all need a whole lot of that right now? Good evening, everyone. My name is Julie Morocco, and I'm the chairman of Americans for the Arts Board of Directors. Thank you. I'm so proud of the work of this organization, of our board, of our staff, and all the great work accomplished on behalf of the arts in this country. It is my great pleasure to once again thank all of our speakers tonight, beginning with Bob Lynch, who has led this organization for more than 30 years. And to Brian Stokes Mitchell, our AFTA board member, and Ted Firth for an amazing musical performance. And, of course, to our two trailblazers, women whose rich cultural heritage from the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico lifted us off of our seats tonight. Supreme Court Justice Sonya Sotomayor and the incomparable Rita Moreno. Please give them another round of applause. And finally, I want to thank all of you for joining us here at the 32nd Annual Nancy Hanks Lecture on Arts and Public Policy. For those of you who would like to watch this lecture over, it will be available on Americans for the Arts YouTube channel next week. And for the hundreds of arts advocates in the audience tonight who have traveled long distances from across the country to participate in Arts Advocacy Day tomorrow, thank you for your passion, thank you for your commitment, and I want you to know that the nation thanks you for standing up for the arts. We wish you all good luck and much success tomorrow. Good night.